X-Men Apocalypse is the third movie in this sort of rebooted series of X-Men movies, you know, that goes along with First Class and Days of Future Past. And this was a movie that had fans everywhere excited for a multitude of reasons. Number one, we were all still completely amped from the amazing movie that was X-Men Days of Future Past. It let us all wondering just how much better and bigger they could make the X-Men movies. And also in the fact that this movie was going to focus on Apocalypse, the world's first and most powerful mutant. But what had me excited most about the character of Apocalypse was the fact that he was going to be played by Oscar Isaac, a guy who I think is a great actor, who I was really impressed with in Star Wars The Force Awakens. I was really hoping this movie would really show us his range in acting, and the fact that in The Force Awakens he was playing a really good guy, and now in this movie he's playing a diabolical villain. Going into this movie, however, I saw that it was getting a lot of really mixed reviews from a lot of different people, even leaning more towards the negative side, it appeared. But now that I have seen it, and I imagine most of you have seen it, let me give you my spoiler-filled thoughts about it. So towards the beginning of this movie, we see Apocalypse in ancient Egypt, and he's just being worshipped by everyone there. And later we see that he's in the process of transferring himself into a younger body, because when we first see him, he's really old. So right here, we discover that the reason he's been around for so long, and the reason he's been able to stay in the same form that he is he's continuing to transfer himself into younger bodies when the body he is in just ages out. However, on this occasion, as he's transferring himself into this younger body, some of the people from outside have stormed in to entomb him into this pyramid. You see Apocalypse's 4 horsemen around him. They're trying to protect him, which only ends in them being killed. And eventually this pyramid just collapses on itself, which leaves Apocalypse trapped in there. Now the movie flashes forward to 1983. It's been about 10 years since the events that happened in X-Men Days of Future Past. And I will say, for about the first third of the movie, I could see why people had some mixed opinions towards it. And that's because in the first third of this movie, it felt very scattered with a lot of the different storylines that were in it. Because at a couple different points, it will show Mystique and her attempts to go out and rescue mutants like Nightcrawler from being abused. Then the movie flashes over to the X-Mansion, where we see Professor X, running his school of mutants. We see that Havoc has enrolled his younger brother Cyclops into this so he can learn to control his powers. And of course, in these moments, it talks about how Cyclops and another student, Jean Grey, are having trouble really learning to control their powers. And I will say, I really do like seeing the struggle that Jean Grey and Cyclops have to go through, because they want to be able to fit into the school. They want to be able to control their powers, but they're just not able to do that. It gives a lot of moments when they shine, and a lot of moments where James McAvoy as Professor Xavier really shines too, because of how much he mentors these kids. But like I said, the movie will then immediately go from a moment like this to then switch over to Magneto's story. We see that Magneto has been hiding in Poland. He is now married, he has a daughter, and he's also been going under a different alias so people don't know that he is the mutant who tried to assassinate the president in Days of Future Past. But this was a storyline that I did like to see, in the fact that in this moment, you see that Magneto truly is a loving husband and a loving father. All he wants is to live a normal life with his family, just live among the people on the earth and give them the life that he can give them without having to use his powers. It makes for some really nice moments when you see it, but once again, the movie flashes forward to yet another little storyline that's in this movie. We see Rose Byrne's character once again from X-Men First Class. We discovered that she's been doing the research on the story behind Apocalypse. And at this point, Apocalypse has risen from his collapsed pyramid, and now he's back to just wreck shit. But in order to rebuild this world, he needs to go out and get his 4 horsemen. So at first, he's able to recruit the mutants Storm, Psylocke, and Angel to come help him. And these were moments that I definitely did like seeing with Apocalypse, because you see that he's really powerful, he's menacing, he's evil, but he's also able to take the power that Storm, Psylocke, and Angel already have and just make them that much stronger. So it is really cool seeing the fact that not only is he a really powerful mutant, but he's capable of making those who follow him that much more powerful. So it's not that I really had a problem with any of these little storylines that were in this movie. I thought they were all really good for what they were. It's how they transitioned between each other. Because it's during the first third of this movie that it keeps shifting back and forth between these 4 different storylines that are a part of the bigger plot towards this movie. I just felt the way that it keeps going back and forth between them all, it's really hard to keep up with. It feels a little scattered and jumbled. It just didn't really look like it flowed that smoothly between the 4 different storylines at first. It just seemed really choppy in the beginning. It does make you feel a little antsy at first because at this point you want to see all these storylines come together and flow more smoothly in this movie because you know it's eventually going to come to that. So yeah, the pacing and the storytelling in the first third of the movie, that wasn't the best. However, it's at a point where we get back to Magneto and his family that I think the movie really starts to focus up and become so much better. Because at this point, the people in Poland have discovered who Magneto truly is. They come to take him in. At first, you see Magneto willingly ready to give himself up. He's like, alright, I will come with you. Just please do not harm my family. But it's in this moment, Magneto's daughter, she's crying, she's scared, she's freaking out, she doesn't know what's going on with Magneto. And Magneto's wife is trying to calm her down, but you discover in this moment that she is a mutant because of the fact that as she's freaking out, all these birds that are in this forest just start flying around and flocking towards all these officers, which starts to scare them. It's in this moment, one of the officers just loses his focus and he lets one of his bow and arrows go, and it hits not just Magneto's daughter, but his wife as well, killing both of them. It's just a really powerful emotional moment that really makes you feel for Magneto, because you look at this guy and you stop and think of just how much he's lost in his life. When he was a kid, he and his family were taken into a concentration camp by the Nazis. He had to watch his mother be shot and killed in front of him. And now he has a family of his own and he just had to watch them get killed in front of him. You see the struggle in the fact that he wants to live peacefully among the humans. He wants to be good. But the humans just continue to take everything away from him. And yeah, it's in this moment after his wife and daughter dies, you just look at the officers and you're just like, oh yeah, you're all gonna die now. And yeah, Magneto just kills every single one of them in about 3 seconds. But then it's in this moment, Apocalypse shows up with Angel, Psylocke, and Storm to talk to Magneto. And of course, in this moment, Magneto is really disheartened. He's a really broken man at this point. And Apocalypse is here to tell him that you can come along with us. Come join us. Come be the powerful mutant that you are. And together, we will make a powerful, great world for the mutants. And Magneto really listens to Apocalypse in this moment because he's just like, yeah, you know what? They're never going to accept me for who I am. They continue to take and take and take from me until I have nothing left. So he agrees to join Apocalypse as his 4th horseman. And in this moment, Apocalypse shows Magneto that he's capable of controlling all of the metal that's in the earth. And because the earth just consists of a huge abundance of metal, Magneto is able to channel his power and use it to basically just rip the earth apart in this one little instance and destroy the concentration camp that he was held in. So it's at this point we go back to the X-Mansion. We see that Cyclops and Jean Grey, they're starting to learn how to control their powers a little bit more. Cyclops has been given these sunglasses that can protect anyone from his eye lasers. Mystique has also arrived to bring Nightcrawler to the X-Mansion so he can learn to be a part of the X-Men. However, at this point, Professor X and Havoc, they've reunited with Rose Byrne, where she begins to tell them a little bit about what Apocalypse is. And she tells the two of them how Apocalypse was the world's first mutant. So many people saw him as a god. He always had 4 horsemen with him. And then it comes a line where Havoc says, oh, 4 horsemen? He must have got that from the Bible. But then Rose Byrne says, or the Bible got it from him. It's one of those moments that just really makes you stop and just really think to yourself, it's like the X-Men are about to go up against a god. How are they gonna beat this guy? So they bring Rose Byrne back to the X-Mansion. Xavier prepares to use Cerebro to try to find Apocalypse. But it's in this moment, he is able to find Apocalypse, but Apocalypse is able to retaliate against Xavier and control his mind. And through this, Apocalypse is able to hack into Xavier's telepathic powers and mind wash everyone on Earth to launch all of their nuclear missiles away from the Earth. Through this, Apocalypse will now not have to worry about human interference, and now the humans don't really have anything they can use to fight against the mutants with if it comes to that. But now that Apocalypse knows what Charles Xavier's power is, he now intends to come after him. So he and the 4 horsemen, they're able to teleport into the X-Mansion and they're able to take Charles away as their prisoner. Havoc tries to save Charles by just firing his energy at the 4 horsemen of Apocalypse, but they're able to escape, and from his energy, the X-Mansion begins to get destroyed. But then comes another really awesome and really funny moment with Quicksilver. Because conveniently, Quicksilver was on his way towards the X-Mansion to ask Charles Xavier to help him find Magneto, because Quicksilver has figured out that he is Magneto's son. But in this moment, he sees the X-Mansion blowing up, and through his super speed, he's able to go through the mansion and just rescue everyone that's in there. They had that song Sweet Dreams playing in the background. It's really funny seeing how Quicksilver is able to save everyone in the mansion. It's also just really cool seeing everything from his point of view when he is moving super fast. So the X-Mansion is destroyed. Quicksilver was able to get everyone out except for one person, Havoc. And that's because because Havoc was the closest to the explosion when it happened, so he is now presumed dead. So it's at this point you sit there and you're just like, Charles Xavier has been kidnapped by Apocalypse and the X-Mansion has been destroyed. What else can go wrong? Well, how about Colonel Stryker showing up and capturing Beast, Mystique, Quicksilver, and Rose Byrne? But what I really do love seeing right here in this moment is Nightcrawler, Cyclops, and Jean Grey's moment to shine. Because these three, being the newest mutants introduced into this franchise, they obviously have been struggling a while to control their powers, really find their place among the other X-Men. But now it has fallen onto them to save everyone and be the heroes. So the three of them are able to infiltrate this military facility that Stryker is keeping the other mutants in, where they are also able to free the mind-controlled Weapon X, which happens to be Wolverine. Yep, it turns out even though Mystique had pretended to be Stryker at the end of Days of Future Past, Stryker was able to still capture Wolverine and use the Weapon X program on him to give him the adamantium claws. And now that Wolverine is free, he just goes on an absolute frenzy. He's killing all of the soldiers that are in there. But through this distraction, Nightcrawler, Cyclops, and Jean, they're able to free the other mutants from their captivity. And just before Wolverine escapes his captivity, Jean Grey is able to use her telepathic powers to restore some of his memories just before he escapes. I just thought this was a really intense scene which brought a lot of entertainment, and I just love seeing Wolverine in these X-Men movies. Because you just can't not have Wolverine somewhere in an X-Men movie. So now that all of these X-Men are together once again, it's time to go after Apocalypse to save Charles. Because Jean has been able to figure out Charles' location through a hidden telepathic message that he sent her. And here we officially discover what Apocalypse's true intention is with Charles. That is to transfer his consciousness into Charles Xavier's body so he will have Charles' telepathic powers. Because Apocalypse is just so powerful. There's so much he's capable of doing. Apocalypse reveals that Charles Xavier is the missing ingredient. Through transferring his consciousness into Charles' body, he will have the power to be everywhere and be everyone. Through this, Apocalypse will be able to recruit all of the mutants in the world to come join his side as the Earth is destroyed, which at the moment is being done by Eric using his powers to control Earth's magnetic poles to basically cause complete and mass destruction. So now it's an all-out war between the Four Horsemen and the Apocalypse against the X-Men. It's a really exciting, intense fight. It leads to Angel being killed, but it also leads to Nightcrawler being able to free Xavier just after he lost all of his hair. But then I thought came another great moment between Mystique and Magneto. And in this moment, she tells Magneto how she understands why he's angry, why he wants to turn on the world and all of its people, how it's terrible that he lost his family. But here she tells him, it's like, you still have family, you still have me, you still have Charles, and although you don't know it, you have Quicksilver. But it's at this moment Apocalypse is still coming after Charles Xavier. He wants to complete the process. But then Quicksilver just drops down. He just starts kicking Apocalypse's ass because he's so fast. It was really cool seeing what Quicksilver was capable of doing, until Apocalypse broke his leg. But now at this point, Charles Xavier is able to use his telepathic powers to get inside Apocalypse's head to keep him distracted that way. So now the rest of the mutants out there can attack Apocalypse physically. And then comes a moment with Jean Grey that was just so awesome. Charles is finally able to really get through to Jean and tell her to just unleash her powers. Let it go. You can do it. As she steps out there and boom! She just unleashes complete Phoenix fire onto Apocalypse. It starts to incinerate Apocalypse, and then you see Magneto and Storm, who both decide to turn on Apocalypse, unleash their powers onto him. Apocalypse is destroyed, the X-Men have won, and it's just so cool just seeing how badass and powerful Jean Grey is. So now as the movie begins to wrap up, we see that the X-Mansion has been rebuilt. And you also see in this moment that it seems like Professor X and Magneto, they finally rebuilt their friendship. They finally have a truce on each other. It does make me wonder though if it's going to stay that way. Is Magneto officially on the side of good now? Will he return to his ways? It does make you wonder, but I have a feeling he's finally on the side of good now. And then in this moment, you see that Mystique has started training the other students to become the X-Men that they're destined to be. However, then we get a post-credit scene where we discover that the Essex Corporation has come to the military facility that was keeping Wolverine, and they have taken his blood sample that contained the Weapon X program, which obviously now has you seeing that they're going to probably make more X-Men movies, which definitely has me excited. Because I at first thought that First Class, Days of Future Past, and Apocalypse was just gonna be one little trilogy between each other. But nope, we're actually gonna get more X-Men movies. And I am totally okay with that. So all in all, I do think X-Men Apocalypse is a good movie. Oscar Isaac, I thought, did a good job as Apocalypse. You know, he was a really menacing, just evil, and very powerful villain, which is what I wanted him to portray him as. I loved seeing the additions to the X-Men. I mean, Jean Grey, Cyclops, Nightcrawler, they were all awesome. I really loved that Quicksilver played more of a role in this movie. I was really hoping he would. I loved Magneto's story in this movie and seeing the struggle that he has to deal with. Storm, Psylocke, Angel, I loved seeing them as 3 of the 4 Horsemen. I can't wait to see how Storm fits into later X-Men movies. Seeing Professor X and Mystique really guiding and helping all these mutants along the way was great for it too. However, like I said, the first third of this movie, it definitely seems a little choppy at times because of how it just goes back and forth between all the different storylines. So yeah, the movie definitely took a while to really get going and focus up, but once it focused up, it was awesome. And in the end, I really don't understand why this movie has gotten such mixed reviews. Is it as good as First Class or Days of Future Past? No, it's not. But as an X-Men movie by itself, I think it does a great job, and I think it's a really good movie that's definitely worth seeing. So in other words, it's just a movie that further exemplifies why I'm not a fan of Rotten Tomatoes at all. So that's all I gotta say, guys. Thank you so much for watching my video. Don't forget to leave a comment, like, subscribe, and I will see you all next time.